Hi y'all. So last week I asked if any of you had specific questions about astrology that I could answer for you. And the lovely Paris said to me that she was feeling like everything was in a state of paralysis, that there was no movement, no traction, etc. I would use the word stagnation for what she's describing. And although I can't tell you, Paris, or anybody else who's experiencing this, exactly why, that's where you need an astrologer to interpret your natal chart to give you a very specific answer. But I can tell you generally that the planet that represents our initiative and our ability to take action and gain the traction that you're talking about is Mars. And so what's likely happening for you is that Mars in the heavens, transiting Mars, might be making a difficult aspect in your chart. Saturn may also be making a difficult aspect in your chart because Saturn represents limitations. And so sometimes we are stuck or confined if we're having a strong Saturn transit. But going back to Mars, I just want to say that Mars represents like our desire nature as well. It's very instinctual. It's our sexual desire in nature, our instinctual desire in nature. And it's the planet that kind of like lights our fire all the way around. So somebody with a strong Mars in their chart can typically get up and go and has a lot of physical energy, can be athletic. Somebody who has a weaker Mars in their chart might experience the opposite of that, right? Like it's harder to get up and go. It takes more energy to move and to start a new project or just to stoke that inner fire. Even this can play out in sexuality in terms of our sex drive even, right? So I'm bringing this up because it's really important to realize that the astrology, like your personal astrology, your horoscope, which is a map of the heavens at the time of your birth, is constantly being impacted by the heavens and the sky and how they're transiting, their movement transit through the heavens. Okay, so the transiting planets are always an aspect to your natal planets, your natal chart or horoscope. And this can last depending on what planet is in motion. I mean, they're all always in motion, right? But when it's making an aspect to your natal chart, depending on what planet it is, it can last for just a few days, it can last for a few months, it can last for years even. So this is where an astrological consultation with me can really help you determine the root cause and, more importantly, like what we can do when we're experiencing an energy like this. So I'm reminded of the word I used was stagnation, right, Paris? So feeling paralyzed and stuck and like you can't gain traction. So what I've been trying to do with all of these videos is take the astrology to the next level in terms of how can we use this astrological wisdom, the cosmic wisdom, to further our spiritual practice. Because in and of itself, the astrology is useful, but if we can't put it into practical usage in some way in our lives, it's just more knowledge that we're accumulating. So I am reminded of the I Ching. I use the I Ching quite a lot. It's a prominent aspect of my own spiritual practice, and the I Ching is a Chinese divination tool, and traditionally in ancient times it was used as a divination tool in times of great transition. So it actually wasn't used that often. But of course, times change, people evolve, and the I Ching is used much more frequently and in a different capacity than it once was. I use it often to help me make decisions or to help me be in integrity about movement in my life, particularly around decision making or relationships, things like this. And there is one I Ching, I think it's number 12, if you happen to study the I Ching, and it is called Stagnation. That's the translation. And it speaks to Paris's frustration about there is no movement, there's no traction, I'm just stuck here spinning my wheels, I'm confined. And the reason I bring this up is because it gives advice for what to do in such an instance, and that is to attend to your inner world. attend to your spiritual life, because it is often the only option left to you. External circumstances are unlikely to change, especially through effort. Okay, so when we're experiencing a time of stagnation, it can be enormously frustrating, especially to the ego. You want it to be different, and you want to take action to create a difference. And spiritual wisdom says, too bad, so sad. You just cannot do that. You just have to sit on your hands and wait. And that is enormously painful in all of these different ways. However, it's extremely beneficial to the spiritual practice, because you can get to the root of a lot of what is it exactly that's creating the compulsion for attraction and movement, and what are the benefits of being grounded, right? Of being stuck on the landing pad. There are a lot of benefits if we can be quiet and still enough to determine what they are. And if we have a meditation practice that's clearing out the mental garbage, then we can really hear that small inner voice that's telling us what is beneficial about a time of stagnation, even though it's challenging and we don't like it and we want it to stop. Of course we want it to stop. Humans want any painful, challenging experience to stop. It's human nature, it's even biological, right? I would also go further and say that when we are experiencing a time of stagnation, it's often because we have experienced a time of growth or extreme energy consumption in some way. And so we're tired. We actually need a break. And these times of being grounded allow us to I don't want to say rejuvenate, that's not the right word, but to integrate the last period of time and to come back to equilibrium before a next period of action or growth. Okay, and in modern society, we're not doing that for ourselves. And COVID has really demonstrated that as well, right? That we have not been taking the time to take care of ourselves. The self-care hasn't been there. And so often, so when the planets go retrograde, especially when Mars goes retrograde, okay, but when any of the planets go retrograde, it really is a time for recalibrating and integrating the previous chunk of time. So when Mars is retrograde, or when we're having a difficult, challenging aspect to our natal Mars, there is no action. It's frustrating and we're stagnant, but it's specifically because there's also probably a feeling of tiredness or needing to reflect on the past so that we can understand where we are in the present and where we want to go in the future. So the I Ching says, make good use of this time, because it's actually a gift to you, okay? So like all things, what I'm trying to do here is take it to the next level in terms of your spiritual practice, and then also reorient the perspective around this stuff. So I hope that even though you can be like, fuck off stagnation, lack of traction, lack of energy, you can also see now how it might be beneficial to you, or at least how you can use that energy to benefit you in some way. It's the whole making lemonade with lemons. Okay, if you have other questions, let me know. If especially Paris, if this triggers another question for you, or anybody else out there, let me know. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. That does actually help me get this astrological wisdom out to others. And of course, if you're wondering how Mars looks in your own chart and how how your energy and stamina and ability to initiate is reflected through your own astrology, hit up my website and schedule a consultation with me. All the links are in the description here. All right, thanks for listening. I hope you have a beautiful day. Ciao, ciao.